An army invading America would face a nightmare most people forget. Before a single boot lands, there is a 3,000-mile Atlantic barrier or a 5,000-mile Pacific expanse, each wider than anything overcome in history. That is just the start. Why is crossing these impossible walls only the first reason no military dares attempt what this documentary reveals next? Stretching from shore to shore, the Atlantic and Pacific act as the world's most unforgiving moats. The Atlantic measures about 3,000 miles at its narrowest crossing from Europe. The Pacific is even more daunting, spanning nearly 5,000 miles from East Asia to the United States West Coast. These are not just numbers, they represent the kind of distance that swallows armies whole. In 1944, the Allies launched the largest amphibious assault in history at Normandy. It took 156,000 troops, 5,000 ships, and months of secret buildup to cross just 100 miles of the English Channel. That operation required total air and sea control, nearby supply bases, and the element of surprise. Now multiply that challenge by 30 or 50. Any modern invader would need to move hundreds of thousands of soldiers, tanks, and supplies across oceans where every extra mile multiplies the risk. No country on Earth has enough ships or the logistical muscle to pull it off. Even the United States, with the world's strongest navy, can only move a fraction of that force at once, and only to friendly shores. For an attacker, the oceans are not just obstacles. They are barriers that turn the dream of surprise into a slow-motion parade, visible and vulnerable long before any landing craft nears the sand. No fleet can cross the Atlantic or Pacific without being spotted. Modern surveillance covers every approach to North America. Space-based infrared satellites scan for missile launches and flag large heat signatures from ships and aircraft. Overhead, constellations of imaging and radar satellites track movements across open water, picking out even small changes in maritime traffic. The North American Aerospace Defense Command, NORAD, links American and Canadian radar satellites and patrols into a single warning network. Its sensors reach from the Arctic Circle to the Gulf of Mexico, fusing data from long-range radars over the horizon systems and coastal stations. Maritime domain awareness programs tie in reports from Allied navies, coast guards, and civilian agencies, closing the gaps in ocean monitoring. Any invasion fleet would appear on these screens long before landfall. The bigger the force, the brighter the signal. There is no way to hide a convoy of hundreds of ships or thousands of vehicles. Surprise is gone the moment engines start. Even attempts at a land shortcut run into dead ends. Canada is not just a neighbor but a treaty ally, bound by NATO's Article 5 to treat any attack as an attack on itself. NORAD's binational command means American and Canadian forces would respond together. To the south, the United States and Mexico border bristles with surveillance towers, drones, and patrols. Joint security programs flag any unusual movement, making it nearly impossible for a foreign army to slip through. In every direction, detection comes first, long before a single shot is fired. Reaching American shores is only the beginning of the nightmare for any invading army. The land itself becomes the next enemy. The Rocky Mountains slice through the west, rising over 14,000 feet in places, creating natural choke points that force any advance into narrow corridors. Crossing the Mississippi River is not just a matter of finding a bridge, it is a logistical gamble, with wide, fast-moving water splitting the country and limiting options for movement and supply. The deserts of the Southwest, the dense forests of the Appalachians, and the sprawling plains each demand different tactics and equipment, stretching any force thin. But geography is only half the problem. The United States has more than 400 million privately owned firearms, more than one for every person in the country. That is 120 guns for every 100 civilians. History shows that even the most powerful militaries can be broken by determined local resistance. In Vietnam, Afghanistan, and Iraq, occupying armies struggled against smaller, less equipped insurgencies. Here, any invader would face millions of armed citizens, turning every neighborhood into a potential battlefield. Holding ground would mean fighting not just soldiers, but ordinary people, everywhere. Covering nearly 3.7 million square miles, the United States is almost as large as all of Europe combined. To occupy, an invading force would need to garrison tens of thousands of towns, patrol millions of miles of roads and railways, and defend an endless web of bridges, tunnels, and power grids. The scale alone demands a military presence so vast that no country could supply or sustain it. Every extra mile multiplies the cost, including fuel, food, spare parts, and troops until the numbers become impossible. But even if an attacker could overcome these logistical nightmares, a final barrier remains. The United States maintains a nuclear triad: land-based missiles, submarines hidden beneath the oceans, and strategic bombers on alert. This system guarantees that even if one leg is destroyed, the others can launch a devastating second strike. Any invasion large enough to threaten the homeland would trigger a response measured not in divisions or tanks, but in megatons. In the calculus of war, the price of invading America is national extinction. Today, America's barriers aren't just lines on a map, they are facts shaping global strategy. As long as those realities hold, invasion remains fantasy, not a threat. What would ever change that?